Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. What's up? My name is Courtney Marie. If you're new here, welcome. Lovely to have you. So today's video is going to be an eyeshadow palette tag. This is based off of a TikTok. I've been doing a lot of scrolling on there, wasting a lot of time. It's very addictive. I will play the TikTok that this video is going to be based off here in a second. But basically it is kind of like an eyeshadow palette check tag kind of a thing. So let's play this TikTok now and then we'll get into the video.
Ayo, eyeshadow palette check. Show your least expensive palette, your most expensive palette, your newest palette, your oldest palette, your most used palette, your least used palette, your most colorful palette, a palette with your favorite packaging, a palette that you use every day, a palette that you have not touched yet, and lastly, your favorite palette.
So as you saw, we are going to dive into some eyeshadow palettes today. I want to keep this video really lighthearted and just focus on the makeup. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So because this is YouTube and not TikTok, I have the luxury of having multiple options for each category. So starting with least expensive palette, I think I narrowed it down to these two. So first is the Wet n Wild Not a Basic Peach palette. This is what she looks like. Really pretty. Now I'm not 100% sure on the prices of these because I honestly don't remember, and they were gifts as well, but on everything I know and the knowledge, I'm assuming that these are my least expensive. And the e.l.f. Matte Jewel Pop. This is a really good palette, especially if you're lacking some mattes in your collection. It's a really cheap, affordable way to get a quite nice variety. I like to use these few shades on an everyday basis. It's really simple, and then if you just have a shimmer shade or even just a liquid eyeshadow to put on the lid, you can create a really nice look, and then obviously you have your pops of color there. So these are my two least expensive palettes. Next is my most expensive palette in my collection. I did not have to think twice about this. This is the Mercury Retrograde palette from Huda Beauty. This retails for in Australia for $115. Ridiculous. And this was also a gift. I am very lucky to have people in my life that really support my hobby, friends, family, and subscribers that sometimes spoil me rotten. So this is an amazing palette. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't used it as much as I would have liked to. But I've kind of been going through the motions with my Project Pan and 1 month 1 palettes, that this kind of came into my life right at the height of that. So it hasn't got as much love as it should have, but it's a really beautiful palette. I will just swatch some of the shades. So these are some of the colors here. Do I think it's worth the money? No, not at all. If you like this color story, the formula is impeccable, but nothing is worth that much money on a singular item, and that's just my opinion on that. So my newest palette is the Bloodlust palette from Jeffree Star. I'm sure everyone knows what it looks like, but here you go if you didn't. I've used this twice. It's really good. I want to keep playing with the colors. I might do a palette bingo on my channel as well using it. I kind of struggled a little bit to create looks with this the first 2 times I used it, just because the mattes in here are a little bit of a different tone than what I'm used to in terms of purples. So I'd really love to push myself to use this in a creative way, hence why a palette bingo would be really good. But that is my newest palette. For my oldest palette, I have 2, the first being the Jeffree Star Beauty Killer palette. This was gifted to me for my birthday, and I think I got it on release as an early birthday gift in like May 2016 this launched. So this is coming up to 4 years old, which is ridiculous. This was like the, you know, at the starting point of me being really obsessed with makeup, and all I wanted was this palette. It's all I thought about since Jeffree came on YouTube and he had his lipsticks and he was like sneak peeking that he was going to come out with a palette. I was just like, this is gonna be my big purchase. This was like the most expensive thing in the world to me at that time, and I think these retail for like $40, but at that point to spend that much money on makeup was like ridiculous. But yeah, this palette is very nostalgic. Not gonna lie, the formula in here is not the same as Blood Sugar. He's come a long way in terms of the formula. The shimmers in here are quite chunky and they're a little bit irritating on the eye. The pink and the blue, I would not put these anywhere near my face with a 10-foot pole unless you're committed to wearing pink eyeshadow for the rest of your life. They stain so badly, and I found that out the hard way. Mainly the reason that I've held on to this palette for so long is this section down here. China White is such a beautiful matte shade. It still performs amazingly. Back in the day I used this to set my face sometimes as well, because finding products for pale people even 4 years ago was a challenge. This shade here is called Courtney, and it's a beautiful transition shade, and it's just such a buttery formula. So I would mostly stick to this region of the palette, but yeah, it's still good. It still performs really well, and I'm happy that I have it. I really want the Androgyny palette, which is the one that's in the same shape as this, because the colors in there really resonate with me, and I just kind of want the whole collection. At this point in time, the only palettes that I'm missing is the Androgyny and the Conspiracy. I was missing the Alien palette, but you cannot purchase that anymore. Sad face. So yeah, but that is one of my oldest palettes. And the BH Galaxy Chic, they still have this, you can still buy it. It is repackaged, and I think the formula has changed. But yeah, this is really old. This is probably 4 or 5 years old, I would say. I used to do all shimmer looks with these red colors, and this asteroid shade would be my inner corner highlight. I've done a lot of videos doing like throwbacks using this palette. I still keep it, it still performs really nicely, and if I ever need a baked shadow, I have a whole palette of them. So this and Beauty Killer I probably will never get rid of, because this is what really had like the pinnacle of me being like, I'm gonna film YouTube videos and whatnot. This was what I bought. So yeah, a little bit of nostalgia. My most used palette, you guys already know, is the Clara Bondi palette. I love this guy. I've hit pan on this. I'm almost hit pan on these matte shades. This is an amazing palette, and oh, I almost hit myself. I absolutely adore it. My least used, a lot of my collection goes unused, so this was really hard for me to pick, because least used to me doesn't mean like it doesn't necessarily mean a bad palette. So I have a lot of palettes that now don't get used, but at one point I did use them, so they look used. But this Chi Chi palette I really love, but it's just so big that it is probably the least used palette in my collection. I have done some palette bingos with this. The formula is amazing, I have nothing against it. It's just huge. It doesn't fit with my palettes in the drawer. It actually sits there with other big palettes, kind of like a bookshelf, and I just forget to use it. So I love this palette. It's got everything under the sun, but it's just big and I forget to use it, to be honest. My most colorful palette would definitely be the Jawbreaker. This is literally a rainbow in a palette. It's beautiful. The formula in here is impeccable, and it's one of my favorite palettes ever. The shimmers in here are literally a gazillion years you know, better than the Beauty Killer palette, and it's really awesome to see where he started and where his brand and his formula is at now. Just amazing. So this palette is beautiful, and yeah, I love it. So I don't know if this counts, but it says favorite packaging. My favorite packaging is actually a custom palette that I've made from Colourpop, but I just love the butterfly and the glitter on here. It's absolutely beautiful. Another contender would probably be more Jeffree Star products. Blood Sugar and Blue Blood. I love the packaging on those. So palettes I use every day, I could not narrow it down to one, so I've got three. First being the Australis Neutralized palette. This was my 1 month one palette for March. That video no longer exists because with everything that's happening, I just haven't had the time to keep up to date and use the palettes. So, but since using this, I have not put it down. It's my everyday palette for work and I love it. I love the shimmers, I love the copper, they're so buttery. I'll do a little swatcheroo. These are some of the most out of this world shimmers, and this is affordable. Still a little bit expensive, but it is an Australian brand. So this is like 25 Aussie dollars, and you can usually get it 50% off because Priceline has sales, or Big W sells it as well here in Australia. Next is from Mellow, the Sonopia palette. Again, with these really bronzy colors. This is one of the most like metallic palettes I've ever used, and the mattes in here are impeccable. Again, I go for something very neutral on an everyday basis. Just get a blue shadow off. The last thing is just a Z palette. I thought I would include it. It's got really everything I need to do highlight, blush, bronzer, and an eyeshadow look. Sometimes even my brows if I'm feeling really lazy and I don't want to use anything else. And I definitely use this on a daily basis as well. So next is a palette I have not touched, the Jaclyn Hill Armed and Gorgeous. Also the Dark Magic one I haven't touched as well. No particular reason, I've just been busy, haven't had time to use them. So if you ask me what my favourite palette is, I usually cannot answer that. It's very subjective. I change my mind all the time. I have so many palettes that it literally changes. At the moment I've got three. The Urban Decay Naked Cherry palette. I've really been loving this. It was a bit of an unexpected love. I was really excited to have this in my collection, but I just thought it would be like another one of those palettes that I use a couple times and then, you know, I pull it out every now and again. I didn't think it would be an everyday thing for me, but it honestly has. I love the color story. It's so easy to use on an everyday basis and have that kind of grungy cherry look or a very girly pink look. Next is Sultry by Anastasia, Beverly Hills. You guys know this palette is abused. I love this one. You can do a really soft kind of taupey look, or that silver is where it's at for me. The Cyborg color is my favorite in the palette. I do an all cool tone look when I use this and I adore it. A recent absolute fave for me, I've had it for a while but I've only kind of started using it religiously, the Jeffree Star X Morphe. I've got it on my eyes today. It's just so accessible. I love the packaging. The only thing I don't like about Jeffree's normal palettes is they're a little bit chunky and bulky and hard to store, and it makes it difficult on an everyday basis for me personally to use his products. But this one, the packaging is so easy, it's magnetic, it's easy to store, and it has a bunch of variety, neutrals, pops of color. Today I have like a watercolory effect going on. I kind of wanted to look like the Starburst lolly kind of. So I've gone in with Lynn, My, Channel, Self-Made. The shimmers are 2 and Dog Mum, and then obviously on my lower lash line Self-Made, and I used a tiny bit of Pink Fleet on my eyes as well. So that's been a really go-to palette for me, and probably my favorite at the moment, which I never thought I would say. I thought it would be something else, but yeah, definitely my favorite at the moment. That is it. That's the end of the tag. I really enjoyed doing this, and I feel like I should do an updated one of this every 6 months or whatever, because it would be really interesting to see how my collection changes. And it does, it goes through ebbs and flows, and sometimes I'm loving certain products and other times I'm not. So I always love to sit here and talk about eyeshadow palettes. I could do it all day. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope everyone is staying safe, being smart, and just spending time with family if you can. Stay inside, wash your hands, do all that good fun stuff that's not really that fun, but we all have to do it anyway. And just make sure, most importantly, again, that you're staying safe as much as you can. So yeah, a little bit heavy to end the video, but I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.